I went to the hospital to meet my sister's newborn, but in the hallway I overheard my husband calling me a cash cow, my mother calling me a useless failure, and my sister promising to keep him happy. I quietly walked away without a word, but what I did next left them completely stunned. So there I was sitting at my desk staring at this fertility clinic bill. Another one. Just another reminder of the endless cycle. The hope, the disappointment. Even the incredible Chicago skyline outside my high-rise office couldn't lift my spirits. "Here we go again," I whispered, pressing my hand to my forehead, a deep sigh escaping me. As a fashion buyer, I was always expected to be perfect, always on point. My eyes drifted to the wedding photo on my desk, Brian and me, frozen in a moment of pure joy. 5 years of marriage and our fertility struggles had built this invisible wall between us, thick and silent. Brian, my husband, worked in real estate. Always sharp, always charming. But lately, that charming smile couldn't hide the exhaustion etched on his face. That evening at dinner, I brought it up. "The fertility treatment costs have gone up again," I told him, "and more of it isn't covered by insurance now." Brian put down his chopsticks, reaching for the wine. "It's okay, we'll manage," he said, trying to sound reassuring. "Work's going well." I looked into his eyes and I just knew he was hiding something. "Really?" I pressed gently. "Because the joint account balance seems to be shrinking lately." He answered quickly, almost too quickly. "Just business expenses, Melissa. I need to make some upfront investments to close big deals. Don't worry about it." I was about to push him to really dig in when my phone rang. It was my sister, Vanessa. "Hey, can you talk right now?" Vanessa's voice was trembling, but not with sadness, with excitement. I moved into the kitchen away from Brian. "What's going on?" I asked, a little annoyed at the interruption. "You might not believe this," she practically squealed, "but I'm pregnant." I was speechless. My hand went to the cold kitchen counter, trying to steady myself. "Oh, congratulations," I managed to choke out. Who's the father?" She lowered her tone just slightly. "I can't say right now for personal reasons." "Vanessa, my sister. She was my complete opposite. No steady job, always relying on our parents, living this carefree life. While I was busting my butt trying to meet every expectation, she just floated through, seemingly immune to all pressure." "Have you told Mom and Dad?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "Yes, I just called them. They were surprisingly happy, especially Mom." My mind was racing. Here I was pouring thousands into expensive fertility treatments, enduring injections and scheduled intimacy, while my sister, who couldn't even name the father, just casually announced a pregnancy and was being showered with congratulations. And the strange part? My parents, Walter and Elaine, blessing this pregnancy with an unknown father, no questions asked. "We're having a small celebration at Mom and Dad's on Saturday," Vanessa chirped. "You and Brian should come." "Yes, of course," I replied, though it was only for appearances. After hanging up, I sank to the cold kitchen floor. Years of tracking ovulation, hormone injections, scheduled everything. And she just got pregnant without even trying, wouldn't reveal the father, and was being celebrated. It felt like a cruel joke. Saturday's celebration at my parents' house was torture. My mother, Elaine, placed her hands on Vanessa's stomach, tears in her eyes, saying, "Our first grandchild." My father, Walter, usually so strict, smiled with unexpected gentleness. Would Mom and Dad be this happy when I get pregnant? I thought bitterly. Brian sat beside me, but he was restless, constantly checking his phone, stepping out several times. "It's work," he explained, but I had this strange, unsettling feeling. That night, back home, I opened our online banking for the joint account. The balance had dropped again. Brian's business expenses were too frequent, too large. He was coming home later and later, with more and more excuses about client dinners and important meetings. I closed the screen and gazed out at the city lights. Questions swirled in my mind. Why was Brian so restless? Why were my parents so ecstatic about Vanessa's pregnancy? And why did I feel like the harder I tried, the further I got from happiness? Then, the phone rang in the middle of the night. "Melissa, Vanessa has gone into labor. She's at Chicago Memorial Hospital." It was my mother, her voice practically bursting with joy. "It's 2:37 a.m., I mumbled, rubbing my eyes. Brian's pillow next to me was empty. "Where's Brian?" I asked abruptly. My mother hesitated for a moment. "I don't know. Probably working late anyway. Can you come to the hospital in the morning?" "Yes, of course," I answered. After hanging up, I got out of bed. The house was silent. No messages from Brian, his coat still on the hook. Another emergency at work, I muttered to myself, making tea in the kitchen. For months, his return time had been unpredictable. I'd questioned him, but he always had an excuse about a big contract. At 6 a.m., I woke up, having fallen asleep on the sofa. Brian still wasn't home. I showered and got ready for the hospital, trying to push down the anxiety and doubt that were spreading like wildfire in my chest. In the Chicago Memorial Hospital parking lot, I spotted a familiar car, Brian's black sedan. He's here? I frowned. He hadn't contacted me all night. After getting directions at reception, I headed to the maternity ward. The pale green walls and the smell of disinfectant made me anxious, reminding me of countless visits to the fertility clinic. As I walked down the hallway, checking room numbers, I stopped just before turning a corner. I heard a familiar voice. It was Brian's. She has no idea. At least she's a good cash cow. My blood froze. I pressed against the wall, holding my breath. You two should be happy together. She's just a useless failure. It was my mother's voice. My heart began to pound. Was she talking about me? Thank you. I'll make sure we are happy. Vanessa's voice, triumphant, filled with laughter. I shook my head, my back still against the wall. Was this a dream? A cruel joke? My legs began to tremble, struggling to support my own weight. The baby really looks like Brian, my mother continued. That nose and chin. There's no mistaking it. We don't need a DNA test, Brian's voice confirmed. The baby is definitely mine. A sharp, searing pain shot through my chest. In my mind, all the pieces started falling into place. Brian's late nights, the mysterious withdrawals from our joint account, my sister's pregnancy with an unnamed father, my parents' unusual joy. Everything connected to one horrifying, gut-wrenching truth. The conversation in the room continued. How do you plan to explain this to Melissa? My mother asked. She doesn't need to know anything. Vanessa's voice was cold, chilling. If she found out that her fertility treatment money was actually paying for my delivery expenses, she'd go crazy. Brian's laughter followed. She hasn't noticed. I've been withdrawing bit by bit from our joint account to prepare for your delivery. She's only interested in her work, so she doesn't even pay attention. But what if she finds out? Vanessa asked, a hint of worry. She won't. My mother's voice resonated strongly. That girl is always focused on work. Family comes second to her. That's why we decided to create a real family. Brian and you and the baby. This is our new family. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my smartphone. I started the recording app. I needed evidence. I felt as if my heartbeat was echoing throughout the hallway. In the end, she can't have children. My mother's voice continued. Years of fertility treatments with no results. I wanted a grandchild to carry on the family name. Brian has wonderful genes. A child from you and Brian is a gift Melissa could never give. When I started my relationship with Brian, I never thought it would come to this, Vanessa said, a strange smugness in her tone. But now I'm glad. I've got what Melissa can't have. She has a different life. Brian's voice was cold, dismissive. Success in the fashion world, winning awards. But what I wanted was a family. She couldn't give me that. My vision blurred. Tears streamed down my cheeks, hot and angry. Everything I knew about my life seemed to be crumbling before my eyes. What are you going to name the baby? My mother asked. Elaine, Vanessa answered. I'm naming her after you, Mom. Oh, how wonderful. My mother's voice trembled with emotion. You're my true daughter. Unlike Melissa, you understand the value of family. I quietly stood up. Enough. I silently stopped the recording app and slipped my smartphone into my pocket. My footing was still unsteady, but I had made my decision. Without saying a word, I turned and began walking back the way I had come. In my mind, various emotions swirled. Betrayal, anger, sadness, and a strange, potent sense of liberation. The questions and anxieties of years had finally found answers. They weren't the answers I had wanted, but at least they were the truth. As I left the hospital, I walked to my car. The sun peeked out from between the clouds, casting a warm, almost hopeful light on my face. I got into my car and rested my forehead on the steering wheel. But no tears came. Instead, something new began to sprout in my heart. A plan for revenge. At that moment, my phone rang. My father, Walter. Melissa. Where are you? We're all waiting for you. Vanessa had her baby. It's a girl. I'm sorry, Dad. I answered, my voice calm, almost unnervingly so. Something urgent came up at work. I don't think I can make it today. What? My father's voice was a mix of surprise and anger. At such an important family moment, is work more important than family? Yes, Dad. I smiled, a cold, hard smile that he couldn't see. Sometimes work is more important than family. Especially when family isn't really family. What are you saying? I hung up. I started the engine and adjusted the rearview mirror. My reflection looked stronger, more determined than I had ever seen before. The Chicago sunset streamed through the windows of my apartment. I quietly sipped my coffee, looking at the documents spread across my living room table. Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts from the fertility clinic. They were like fragments of my shattered life, now laid bare as evidence of a bitter truth. Having returned directly home from the hospital, I began gathering important documents from around the house. I acted without being swayed by emotion, methodically, as if handling a major project in the fashion industry. I need to organize the facts, I told myself. Based on facts, not emotions. I played back the recorded conversation, making notes of important points. Brian and my sister's affair, my mother's conspiracy, the misuse of funds from the joint account, and the cruel, sickening fact that my fertility treatment money had actually been used for my sister's delivery expenses. My smartphone rang. It was a message from Brian. Working late. Might not make it home tonight. Love you. I gave a cold smile. Taking care of your daughter and wife at the hospital. I see. I muttered to myself. After replying with a brief understood, I scrolled through my contact list and stopped at a name. Laura Carter, a law school classmate who now specialized in family law. Laura, it's Melissa, I said over the phone. I have an urgent matter to discuss. Could we meet today if possible? An hour later, Laura was knocking on the door of my apartment. She listened intently to the evidence I presented, heard the recording, and checked the bank statements. This is terrible, Laura frowned. Legally, you're in a very strong position. Not only infidelity but also misuse of joint property. Furthermore, this could potentially be considered intentional fraud. What should I do? I asked, my voice surprisingly calm. First, secure all evidence, Laura answered in her professional tone. Next, you should open a separate bank account in your name. Then, continue investigating in detail without them noticing. We need to uncover everything they've been hiding from you in this conspiracy. I nodded. How long will it take? It will take 1 to 2 months until we're ready, Laura answered honestly. During that time, you need to behave as usual. They mustn't suspect anything. A light of fierce determination shone in my eyes. I can do it. I'll just pretend to be an actress. The next morning, I woke up at my usual time. Brian still hadn't returned home. I prepared for work and stopped by the bank to open a new account in my name. At work, I focused, completing my tasks more efficiently than ever. My colleagues didn't notice any change. No one could see the flame of anger burning inside me. In the evening, I received a call from Brian. I'm coming home tonight, he said. We need to talk about. What? I feigned composure. Vanessa had her baby. Did you know? It's a girl. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Are you saying that to me? No, to my sister. I have nothing to say to you. I deliberately kept my meaning ambiguous. Right. Could you prepare a special dinner tonight? Like a celebration. Of course, I answered, a chilling smile playing on my lips. Looking forward to it. After hanging up, I took a deep breath. This is the beginning, I said quietly. That night, I prepared Brian's favorite dishes, opened wine, and lit candles. When he came home, I greeted him with a smile. Welcome home, I said. Congratulations on becoming an uncle. Brian looked relieved. Yes, thanks. Vanessa's baby is cute. Her name is Elaine, same as your mother. How nice, I maintained my smile. Come, dinner is ready. During the meal, I asked him questions about his work, about the big deals he mentioned, and about his plans for the future. He answered everything, occasionally appearing tense, but seemed reassured by my calm attitude. About the fertility treatments, I suddenly brought up. I think I want to try a little longer. Brian froze, his wine glass halfway to his lips. Really? Isn't it enough? More money. Are you worried about money? I asked quietly. No, that's not it. I'm just worried about your body. Brian made an excuse. All those injections, hormone therapy. Don't worry. I placed my hand over his. My fingertips were cold, but he didn't notice. I'm strong. The following week, I began a thorough investigation. During my lunch breaks at work, I went to the bank and retrieved statements from the past 3 years. At night, I secretly examined Brian's documents and checked his computer. I searched for hidden assets and tracked all financial transactions between Brian, my mother, and Vanessa. It's worse than I imagined, I reported to Laura one day. For the past 18 months, He's been withdrawing thousands of dollars every month from our joint account. That money was put into another account, and much of it was used for Vanessa's apartment rent, her luxury shopping, and delivery-related expenses. Evidence? Laura asked. I have it all. I indicated the file. Bank records, photos, and recordings of their conversations. I also found evidence that Mom was complicit. She was providing funds to Vanessa and Brian from her own savings, hiding it from Dad. Well done, Laura said, clearly impressed. In my experience, few clients gather evidence this thoroughly. They ruined my life, I answered quietly. I just did what was necessary. Laura placed a hand on my shoulder. We're almost ready. All that's left is to find a new place to live and proceed with the separation. I nodded. I had already found a new apartment and just needed to sign the contract. Everything was prepared for me to take a step toward a new life. The weekend Brian was scheduled to go on a business trip, I took action. I moved important documents, personal belongings, and mementos to my new apartment. I withdrew my share from the joint account and worked with my lawyer to prepare for the divorce proceedings. Maybe I should at least talk to Dad, I thought. Walter was a strict father, but he was always fair and valued honesty. I wasn't sure if he knew about his wife's, Vanessa's, and Brian's betrayal. I called my father. Dad, I need to talk to you, I said. It's personal. Can you keep it from Mom? What's wrong? Walter's voice was mixed with concern. Can we meet at a cafe tomorrow morning while Mom is at church? The next morning, my father Walter was waiting for me at a downtown cafe. I brought all the evidence and told him the truth in a quiet but firm tone. About Brian and Vanessa's relationship, my mother's complicity, and the diversion of my fertility treatment funds. The color drained from Walter's face. His hands trembled, and his eyes burned with anger. Unbelievable, he finally managed to say. Elaine doing this? You didn't know? I asked. Of course not. Walter raised his voice. I thought I was giving funds to Vanessa from my own money to help her become independent. When I asked who the baby's father was, she just said it was a complicated situation. I never imagined Brian. The evidence is here. I played the recording. After listening, Walter covered his face with his hands. I'm sorry, Melissa, he said in a low voice. As a father, I should have noticed. It's not your fault. I took my father's hand. They were deceiving both of us. What do you plan to do? Walter asked. Everything is ready, I answered. I'm filing for divorce and seeking proper compensation. I will legally reclaim what they took from me. After a moment of silence, Walter nodded. I'm on your side, he said. Tell me if you need anything. I smiled. Thank you, Dad. Your support is enough. Just pretend you don't know for now. I want to have everything in place before they know about my preparations. Walter agreed and we parted ways. I walked with a lighter step toward my new apartment. I didn't yet fully understand that the coming events would shake my entire family to its core. But in my heart, something that had been lost for a long time was returning. I'm home. Brian's voice echoed through the apartment, returning from his 3-day business trip. He placed his travel bag in the entryway and looked around. Melissa. There was no answer. On the living room table lay a brown envelope. His name was written on it in elegant handwriting. Brian frowned as he picked up the envelope. Inside were formal legal documents and a letter from me. What is this? At that moment, the apartment door opened and I entered. I was wearing a sharp suit, my hair neatly styled. I wore a cold expression that Brian had never seen before. Was it a good trip? I asked quietly. Or did you enjoy your time with Vanessa and the baby? The color drained from Brian's face. What are you saying? Enough with the act. I raised my hand to stop him. I know everything. Your relationship with Vanessa, Mom's conspiracy, and the fact that my fertility treatment money was actually being used for Vanessa's delivery expenses. Brian looked at the contents of the envelope and changed color. This is a misunderstanding. Is it? I took out my smartphone and played the recording. The hospital conversation echoed through the room with crystal clear quality. She has no idea. At least she's a good cash cow. Brian's voice, followed by Elaine's and Vanessa's voices. Brian collapsed into a chair. Melissa, let me explain. Explain what? I calmly asked. How you deceived me, betrayed me, used my money, had an affair with my sister, and had a child with her. What explanation could there be? Brian struggled for words. I really did love you at first, but with not being able to have children. You're blaming me? My voice trembled slightly. Infertility wasn't my choice. You promised in our marriage vows, in sickness and in health. I know, Brian held his head. But Vanessa is unlike you. Yes, she's different from me, I said coldly. She's the kind of person who sleeps with her sister's husband, bears his child, and feels no remorse about ruining her sister's life. Forgive me. Brian suddenly began to plead. Let's start over. We can still. It's too late. I showed him the documents in my hand. The divorce proceedings have already begun. All the evidence of inappropriate withdrawals from our joint account, hiding assets, and infidelity is in place. Brian's face turned pale. You? Yes, I recorded everything and gathered evidence, I explained matter-of-factly. While you were out claiming to be working, I examined bank statements and uncovered your lies one by one. But why? Brian asked, visibly shaken. Why didn't you just leave quietly? Why? Anger flashed in my eyes. You all tried to take everything from me. My husband, my family, my future, even my money. Did you think I'd just walk away? Brian was speechless. The trial starts next week, I continued. Dad already knows. He plans to testify as a witness. Walter. Brian's voice trembled with fear. He too. Dad didn't know anything, I said sternly. He was another victim deceived by all of you. The phone rang. It was Brian's smartphone. Vanessa's name appeared on the screen. I gave a cold smile. Why don't you answer it? Must be an important call. Brian ignored the phone. How can I? There's nothing you can do, I said. I've packed your belongings in boxes. Leave today. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, I shrugged. Why don't you go to Vanessa's? Your family, aren't you? A week later, the trial began. My lawyer, Laura, presented evidence not only of infidelity but also of hidden assets and improper withdrawals from the joint account. Recording tapes, bank statements, and numerous photographs. The judge frowned at this evidence. These are very serious allegations. Further investigation revealed in court that my mother, Elaine, had conspired with Brian to hide assets. Elaine was forced to take the witness stand and testify with a pale face. Why did you do this? The judge asked. Elaine stumbled over her words. Melissa was always focused on work, putting family second. I thought she shouldn't have children. A murmur swept through the courtroom. Does that justify facilitating and supporting an affair between your daughter's husband and your other daughter? The judge questioned sternly. Elaine couldn't answer. Next to her, Vanessa sat holding the baby, a look of terror on her face. In the courthouse hallway, my father Walter stood next to me. Well done, he said quietly. It's painful to see the truth come to light, but it's necessary. Thank you, Dad, I replied. Ultimately, the court recognized my claims and issued a judgment favoring me in the division of property. Additional compensation was also ordered for Brian and my mother's conspiracy to hide assets. On the day the verdict was delivered, I left the courthouse with Laura. It was raining outside, but there was a strange brightness in my heart. It's over, I said. No, Laura smiled. This isn't the end. It's a new beginning. A year later, Chicago was wrapped in beautiful autumn colors. From the window of my new boutique office on Maple Street, I watched leaves dancing in the park. A new sign reading Melissa Johnson Style Consulting shone at the building's entrance. We've heard back from the new client, my assistant Jessica reported. They've signed the contract. I smiled. Thank you. Over the past year, my life had changed dramatically. With the victory in the divorce case and the compensation, I established my long-dreamed-of consulting company. My experience in the fashion industry and sharp sensibility quickly attracted attention, and the company grew steadily. My phone rang. My father Walter's name appeared on the screen. Dad, what's up? Is dinner still on for tonight? Walter's voice was cheerful. Of course, I answered. My apartment at 7. After hanging up, I returned to the window. In my mind, I reflected on the events of the past year. Brian and Vanessa's relationship didn't last long as expected. After the trial, Brian was fired from the real estate company and had to take a lower-paying clerical job. Having lost his status and reputation, he couldn't adapt to his new life with Vanessa. There were constant arguments between them, with financial struggles and the stress of raising a baby making the situation worse. A few months ago, I happened to see Vanessa at a coffee shop. Her previously confident attitude was gone, replaced by a tired expression as she tried to soothe her baby. I moved to another seat without being noticed by her, but a strange feeling welled up, not a sense of victory, but a somewhat empty feeling. My relationship with my mother, Elaine, had not been mended. She had repeatedly sought reconciliation, but I didn't respond. Having lost social credibility, my parents were distanced by their former friends, especially my mother, who lamented not being invited to the lavish dinner parties I used to host every Christmas. They brought it on themselves, I thought, but deep down I sometimes felt the loneliness in the complete estrangement. Walter was different. He had separated from his wife and started living in a small apartment. His bond with me grew stronger than before, and we began having dinner together once a week. Back in my office, I glanced at the picture frame on my desk. It showed me smiling with a man, David Clark, my new partner, an investment advisor I met during the divorce proceedings who had also helped me launch my company. David understood my past and nurtured our relationship without rushing. I had recently started adoption proceedings. I had given up on fertility treatments and made a new choice. David fully supported my decision. Meanwhile, Brian eventually couldn't afford child support and fled out of state. Vanessa ended up living with her parents with the baby, but their once affluent lifestyle never returned. In the evening, I left my office. The autumn wind caressed my cheeks. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with fresh air. The pain of the past hadn't completely disappeared, but it had made me stronger. What I had lost was significant, but what I had gained was even greater. Confidence, independence, and true self-worth. I was no longer someone else's shadow, but shining in my own light. I looked up at the sky. The setting sun breaking through the clouds seemed to promise a new tomorrow.